So, what I want to do today is talk about masks and why I'm not wearing one. And it kind of starts back from the very beginning of when Trump shut down the travel to China. And everybody gave him a really hard time because he did it. Now, at the time, knowing what we knew about the virus and knowing, the things that we know about China, I think it was an extremely good idea. You don't want to have a bunch of Chinese coming into the country sick when you're not really sure what this virus is all about. At that time, though, the Democrats were completely against the entire process. You got Nancy Pelosi and her supreme ignorance standing out on the street telling everybody to come join her. And then a month later, she completely about faces, never apologizing for being ignorant, but about faces and decides that now the virus is going to kill everybody. The other interesting thing that happened is CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, all these media outlets that honestly should be forced to put fake news on their banner because they're nothing more than a gossip magazine at this point. They did the same thing. They about faced. They initially were criticizing Trump because he was an idiot. Then they turned around and started putting out there, and they still are, that the virus is killing everybody. But the problem with those of us that actually have a brain and have some common sense, we know for a fact that CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, they all make up lies, and I want to address this for just a minute because it's easy to get on to Trump for his tweets and some of the things that he says and the way he says it, but I personally I've always known that the media was biased. That was something that all of us knew they were biased. The public radio station that everybody listens to, that you think you're getting some good worldwide stories on. The problem is that if you look at what they're reporting on in this country, it is so biased that after a while it becomes, am I even getting the right story for the other countries that they're reporting on? Because if they're willing to lie about the things that are going on in this country, I'm pretty certain that they're probably lying about what's going on in other countries as well. So, all of these media outlets that we're supposed to be listening to have become completely and utterly useless. And I seriously think that something needs to be done by the government, by the politicians, to force places like this to, the Esquire magazine isn't on CNN. They're not a CNN. They're not reporting real news because everybody knows that what the Esquire reports is ridiculous. So it's more of a comedy magazine than it is anything else. But CNN and MSNBC and New York Times and all in Washington, whatever, I get some of those confused, so I'm not going to name them. But what they report is completely and utterly nothing different than the Esquire. And so I'll give you an example. When we had the impeachment trials, when everybody was going up and witnessing and we were able to listen to that all day. I listened to it, and I would listen to these people, and I was always baffled at why they even went to be a witness because they had no information whatsoever that Trump had colluded with the Russians. But we watched the idiot that was up there managing all of this, the two idiots that were up there managing all of that process, and you would listen to the trial. And then at the end of the trial, you would have Schiff and the other dumbass that was up there make stuff up that they supposedly heard and definitively state that they had definitely concluded and proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that Trump had colluded with the Russians. And you're sitting there scratching your head going, well, wait a minute, because the guy you just listened to the entire day didn't say anything like that. I mean, he said he didn't know shit. And you're sitting here with your little speech at the end of the trial acting like he said that he did know something. And so when you'd flip over to Fox News, they would cover the facts. You'd flip over to CNN or MSNBC or any of the rest of them, and they literally were making up stories just like Schiff. In fact, they were quoting Schiff comments and not quoting the things that were actually said during the trial. And so I really, at that point in time, I realized that they're not biased. They're not slanting the news in their direction. They literally are making news up. So we have this media outlet that we're supposed to be getting our information from, that is absolutely and utterly useless. Fox News is, and I'm not saying that they're perfect, but Fox News, in my experience, because I watch all of the different news things, but Fox News gives more accurately what actually happened than any of the rest of the news outlets. So it's really disappointing that they are allowed to stay on TV and allowed to print publications, make up stories, and then never have to go back and say they were wrong. That, in my opinion, Congress needs to pass something that says that if they're gonna make a bad story and they get caught, then on the front page of their paper or on the very beginning of their newscast, instead of giving us the 10-minute diatribe, they have to apologize for the story that they got wrong the day before. Because if we had something that forced them to apologize, I think they would probably have to start reporting the news more accurately. Not reporting news is almost as bad as lying about the news, but at least by them just saying we're not going to report on that, that's their business decision. That's going to make their news station even less interesting for people, as if you could get much less interesting. So that kind of sets the stage for the beginning of my problem, and really the problem of almost everybody that I've met. So we run this down its course, and then the next thing that comes up are masks. Now, there are research projects that took place before all of this pandemic stuff, and in my opinion, they are the only ones that we can go look at. We can't use the biased bullshit that the researchers and stuff are doing now, because what did they learn how to do research better since the virus came out about masks, but before that everybody was an idiot. But there are research projects from 2015 and earlier that went through and looked at masks, and they also looked at people talking and how much virus is actually spread by someone talking versus them actually coughing. Because the virus is not sitting here on the end of my tongue and a little piece of spit comes out and all of a sudden you're infected with a virus. And I'll try to put some links in the description to show some of this research stuff, or where it was reported. But the point is, the virus from these earlier research projects, and they were looking at people that were infected with the flu, which in my opinion is a lot worse disease than this virus is. I kind of classify this virus more as a cold than flu. But the problem is that they concluded that masks don't work for preventing the virus. And they also, during one of these experiments, they had people not wear a mask, and they were trying to detect how much virus was actually on surfaces and stuff from them talking, and they found none. So I'm not saying that it's not possible to spread the virus by talking, but it's extremely odd that we have been living in a world where every year over 50,000 people in this country die from the flu, and millions of them get the flu every year, and all of a sudden we're supposed to be wearing masks for a virus that isn't killing her. I mean, okay, it's killed some people, but because of the media, because of the politicians, because of everything that we have to deal with as American citizens, we're lied to every single day, all day long. And so when I look at in 2019, the medical CDC was saying that this was going to be the worst year on record for flu deaths. And I look and the virus comes up, and then I start watching, well, what's going on with flu? Why if I was in charge of the CDC, I'd have a graph that showed here are the people that are dying from the flu, here are the people that are dying from COVID. And people would be able to logically look between them and see what's really going on. But instead, what happened is everybody was dying from COVID. Nobody died from the flu. And even today, and we're in almost the end of July 2020, and even today, there are no good sources that you can go to, definitely not the CDC, to go to clearly define flu deaths and COVID-19 deaths. So, a couple years ago, we had 50, 60,000 people that died from the flu. They were saying this year was going to be worse. So assuming that it was and that they were right, because a lot of times they're wrong, but assuming that they were right, you should have more than 60,000 deaths from the flu. Well, where are they? Where's the graph that shows this? And then why are there so many COVID deaths? Because when you go back and look at the records and look at what they did, there have been time and time again where they've been caught tagging things as COVID that were not COVID. There's been people that were put in the hospital on ventilators that didn't have COVID, but they were tagged as COVID patients. There's evidence all over the place for this stuff. And so at the end of the day, I'm looking at all of the lies, all of the bullshit that's been spread around. And it's kind of like the wolf story that you listen to when you're growing up as a kid. The kid goes out and screams, wolf, wolf, wolf. And after a while, people quit looking, quit paying attention. And then when the wolf really comes in, nobody's listening to help him. And that's where we're at right now. Media has lied, government has lied, and we can't trust any of them. So when you come to me from the government and you tell me that I have to wear a mask, I'm not wearing a mask. And when the silent majority decides that you're not shutting our businesses down anymore, we're all opening. So when you want to send the police out to come arrest all of us because we opened our business, but you're going to let a bunch of punk thugs go down the street unattended and let them burn buildings and burn businesses and harass the owners, kill people, and everything else, I say, you know what I say. I'm not putting up with it. I am so sick of this shit. And as soon as the silent majority decides that they've had enough and the masks come off and the businesses open up the way that they ought to be and the economy gets going again, I'm going to continue to scream about this, because I literally go to bed at night so stressed out, and I don't get stressed out. I'm a very emotional person from the sense that I'm going to say whatever's on my mind, but I let it go after I've said it. This has been really difficult for me to deal with. So I can't stay quiet anymore. I'm not going to walk around and act like everything is normal. This is bullshit. Kids need to go to school. People need to go back to work. And the mask mandates need to go the hell away, because they do not work. Fauci is on the damn TV saying specifically that masks don't work for stopping viruses, but now magically today, or in July, he has changed his tune and said that, well, that's not really what he meant back in the beginning. Well, I'm sorry, but you can only have so many redos, and the media and the government and Fauci and all the rest of these people have had so many redos that the girl that posted the video on Facebook or whatever, where she goes through and does a newscast and contradicts herself all the way through the newscast, she was getting all of that information from the media, from everything that we've been told. And I'm just, again, I'm sick of all of the damn masks. I'm sick. People are scared. There are people that are walking around wearing masks thinking that if they don't wear a mask, they're going to kill people, and that if they don't wear a mask, they're going to die. And it's all utter bullshit. The virus is killing people, sure, but there are people that were already sick. There are people that were already having problems. And if you're in that category, you were already very, very susceptible to getting the flu and dying. So the fact that the virus got to you first, and I can't conclusively say how many people have actually died purely from the virus. I would say none. I don't know of anybody. I haven't heard any story of anybody getting this virus and dying from that virus. But the flu, you hear about them all the time. So, it's just enough is enough. We've been sitting here listening to all of this shit, and we all just need to stand up. Go, if you're in New York, you're in California, get together locally, and y'all just go open all your damn businesses. What is the government going to do? They do not have the right to shut your business down. So if they do shut your business down, you have a simple way to make a living from that point forward, because I would sue the hell out of the local government that shut you down. And if they arrest you, then even better, because you'll have even more evidence that they broke your constitutional rights. So everybody needs to stand up and say enough is enough, and let's get back to work and quit this shit.